My friends, in the event that you are new to this wonderful card game and you have not yet signed up for a UGN Play account, you can now sign up with my exclusive referral code Alliteration and get yourself 50 bonus loyalty points for free, as well as additional loyalty points for every event that you play in within my referral code period. Why do you need these, you might ask? Well, loyalty points can be used to redeem free promotional cards in the mail, as well as other exclusive items coming in the future. The bonus points from using my code are enough to redeem almost any promo card right off the bat, and having your UGN account is going to allow you to accrue and track more and more as you go through your hero or villain's journey. If free cards and progression all sound super appealing to you, the links for all of this are going to be in the description below. Now, let's get on to the video. Howdy, my dear viewers, and welcome to the third and final episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Aggro. If you've been keeping up, this is the third and final part in our little mini-series about how to prepare for Nationals. I have separated the 15 best decks, I think, that will show up throughout the event into 3 different categories, 5 decks in each category: the good, the bad being the rogue decks, good being the defensive stable wall decks, and then now finally we are on to the third installment here, which is the aggro. These decks require no explanation. If you are an avid player of this game, if you've been here since day one, or if you're fresh, you've seen these guys in the grapevine, you've seen them talked about. These are the decks that are trying to get to lunchtime. These are the decks that are trying to blitz through their rounds as fast as they possibly can, win or lose quickly, and move on to the next one. These are decks that don't care what you're doing. They have a game plan in their head, and they're going to try and enact it as quickly and consistently as possible to just take you from full health to 0 in no time. We're heading into a very fresh and new format with Heroes Clash, and most of the time in the beginning of these new metas, aggro is usually what dominates. Point being said, aggro is a lot easier to play. It's much easier to not worry about what your opponent's cards are doing and simply try and steamroll your way through as fast and hard as you possibly can. A lot of the more intricate and complex strategies, which are also usually the more defensive ones, have just not been figured out yet. We haven't evolved to that point in the meta. Right now, we are just taking the most blatantly aggressive decks at face value, and those are going to be the easiest strategies to play in the beginning of a new format. And so simply by nature, that's why I think a lot of the aggro decks are really poised to do well at this event, and I think that they're gonna be some of the most prominent forces there. Additionally, a lot of these decks in specific got really strong support in Heroes Clash, and have just become so much better and elevated as a whole, which also just puts them in a really strong combo position to twofold dominate Pro Hero Nationals' meta. So with all that being said, let's get into it and start off with our number 5 slot, and that's going to be Himiko Toga. Now, Toga has had a really interesting journey since her release in set 2. At first, she started out as like the poster child for the good stuff, defensive, survive forever, life symbol pile of cards. Then slowly Momo took over that slot, and now Toga has shifted into a much more interesting position with the advent of the unfun stuff patented Railgun Toga alleyway ambush decks. These decks combine 3 major aspects, 2 from the life symbol and 1 from Toga herself, to create a very potent deck. We have all of the resource ramping from the life symbol, from the card draw and foundation ramping from things like Excited for Blood, Passing the Torch, and New Training Method, to the piles of minimal damage pumping that we can do with things like Tight-Lipped and Floating Around My Babies, and of course, the immense amount of digging you get to do from all of the cycling with Himiko Toga herself. These 3 factors all come together to make a very potent deck that can establish a really big stage and hand very quickly, and then just find the 6-7 attack string that you need to just finish off anyone in a matter of minutes. With of course the star of that being an alleyway ambush or 2 at the end to just really blitz down your opponent. This deck really started to show up the second Bromley and the rest of the unfun boys started playing it near the end of season 2, and I think we're gonna see it in the Heroes Clash format quite a bit still, albeit a little less because quite frankly it didn't get a whole lot of new toys in set 3. Heroes Clash didn't provide life with too many cards. They got some good ones for sure. There are some new goodies in there, but the deck hasn't evolved nearly as much as a lot of the other decks have. And so while I think it's going to be one that shows up a little less, there are still going to be a good chunk of players out there looking to catch you off guard and Railgun Toga you out of nowhere. And for that, you've got to be very aware of this deck. Coming in our number 4 slot is going to be Kyoka Jiro. It's crazy to look at this top 5 list and see Jiro in number 4, but the aggro decks this season are really crazy, guys, and Jiro Jiro, in a very similar vein to Toga, did not get a whole lot of new things from Heroes Clash. The air symbol next to the life symbol probably being the two that got the least new bells and whistles from the set, and for very good reason, because Jiro, even without a lot of new stuff, is still an absolute beast. Jiro, of course, being the huge master powerhouse of aggro, going from the season 1 and even the season 2 meta for sure. Air Jiro is a deck that never really like fell off for sure, and even Staff Strike Jiro started seeing a lot of play near the end as well. Jiro is just a force to be reckoned with. Jiro being a character that can play Season the Advantage in her deck, which is easily one of the most powerful cards, if not the most powerful card in the entirety of Heroes Clash. Jiro has always been a really strong aggro deck, just being able to pile so many stats on things, manipulate her card draw, manipulate her checks, and really make it easy to say, okay, here's everything that's available to me, can I find X amount of damage that I need to finish the game? And most of the time, the character just can. It has never been very hard for good Jiro players to get there. The almighty Season the Advantage is a card that she can play 4 copies of. I think that card is going to be everywhere, and the fact that Jiro as an aggro deck can utilize it to its fullest potential and then some, because she gets technically extra stats from it being in the card pool as well, is just such a powerful synergy, and just really continues to solidify her as one of the best aggro decks, and proudly takes the number 4 spot on this list. Moving on to number 3 here, we're of course going to have Ochako 2, O2 as you will, Oxygen herself. This character card is crazy. Ochako 2 has always been an extremely high rolly, crazy high risk, high reward deck. We saw the evolution of her into like the Gale Force punch decks in season 2, and she's only gotten stronger since then, and set 3 has given this character so many crazy new things to play with. The fact that she can now move away from the 2-check world and embrace things like Hulking Grimace and Gigantic Explosion to really carry games, or delve even further into the 2-checks with things like Villainous Waylay, getting to rip multiple cards out of the opponent's hand. There are so many powerful things for this character to be doing now across all of her symbols, really. Death got so much very solid support. Things like Piercing Needle, Window Shopping, Nothing to See Here, Snack Time. There's so many like interesting new things you can play that are just like maximum potency in this character, or you can even venture off and go into more air builds with things like Stun Grenade and Season the Advantage. There's just so many good things for this character to be doing right now. She's got so much good food to eat in set 3, so many more ways to make her moves very unblockable so she can shove them down your throat, pick them back up, play them again for free, and just Casino Royale the heck out of you. This character can do an insurmountable amount of damage on the very early turns of the game, and I don't think it's going to be uncommon to see her just like high rolling 7-handers with one singular Hulking Grimace played 2 times when it's just way too fast before they can really do anything about it. I think this character is definitely the most high roll character on this list, being just a flat out 5-hand size character. But man, when you win that dice roll and you find those right moves on turn 2, there is almost nothing any deck can really do to stop you. Matchups are hardly a thing that you really have to worry about when you're playing Ochako 2. I think the only real one to worry about is Eraserhead. That is a very rogue matchup, and only when you're fighting some of the good Eraserhead players. And ultimately, there are still worlds where you're just going to find the moveset to overwhelm him. There truly is just no defense that a character like Ochako 2 cannot crack when she finds the right moves under the right circumstances. And that is really what makes her such a powerhouse and solidifies her spot in the middle of this list of the 5 best aggro decks. But as much as I've sung the praises of Ochako 2, there are 2 characters that stand above her. I honestly think she could actually be number 2 on this list. I think she's like at least as good as the next guy that we're going to talk about, but I've just seen much fewer people talking about Ochako 2 than I have this next character. And the next character that we're talking about, of course, in the number 2 slot is going to be Ojiro 2. This guy is the hotness right now. I have seen so many different builds, so many unique takes and interesting ways to play this character, but they all involve beating the absolute snot out of you. This guy puts so many stats on cards, it's crazy. If you thought Jiro's stats were bad, wait until you fight the really good Ojiro 2 players, because they are going to be slinging monstrous moves at you. And yes, while his stats do cap out at +3/+3, oftentimes that's all he really needs to close things off. Furthermore, he has such an added degree of consistency and reliability over a character like Jiro, just because he's able to pick up his moves, right? He can play 4 attacks while he only actually has 3, even less if he's got some students of the art on board and can start utilizing those to their fullest potential. Aggro is some of the most reliable and fastest aggressively pumping stats aggro that I've ever seen come out of a character. His strings are crazy, his combos are even crazier, and when Aggro 2 really gets going, there is not a lot of even the best defensive decks can do to stop him in his tracks. And those reasons are why he sits super proudly on the number 2 slot. Alright, my dear viewers, we have finally arrived at the number 1 slot, and honestly, there's no other character it could be. It can only be this guy right here. You cannot make a list of aggro decks in the My Hero Academia collectible card game and not at least include, and probably more than likely put, Tokoyami in the number 1 slot. This guy is an absolute monster. Tokoyami has been the absolute unrivaled king of turn 2 aggroing people out without a care in the world since the game first came out, and Heroes Clash only helps him do that even more now. Tokoyami got so many powerful things in this set, it's not even funny. I think the big debate right now is which is better, the Chaos or the Fire build, but regardless, they both get access to the most insane card in his entire lineup, and that's Twisting Azure Inferno. Effectively, he gets 8 copies of Crow and Frog Takedown in his deck now, and 4 of them say his moves get +1 speed for the turn. From there on out, the Fire build got so many powerful new foundations and tech attacks from the Endeavor starter deck. He can put flamethrowers in his decks now. He can, of course, play the Almighty Season the Advantage. If you go the Chaos route, he's got so much crazy foundation power in all of his 0 diffs, amazing plays with things like One with Nature, Petty Squabble, the new Todoroki attacks. This guy just got so much fantastic support in set 3, and I think it's really what he needed to simply just come back in and dominate the format once more. He really started to fall off when the super hyper turbo defensive decks rose to the meta, but I just don't think he even cares about those anymore. I don't think there's anyone that Tokoyami in his new power cannot take down. This guy just goes so deep, so fast, and it's just not uncommon to see him playing 5-6 attacks on 3, 4, 5 foundations. And there's just very few decks, if any, that can actually handle that much aggressive output so early on in the game. I think Tokoyami is one of the best, if not the best choice to take to the Pro Hero Nationals. I think him and Kirishima 2 are fighting a very hard tug of war for the best deck in the format. Because I just think that all of the people that used to keep the bird down simply can't do it anymore. He can beat up Kirishima through half damage on 1 attack. He can beat up Momo through her infinite blocking power. I think he's a little afraid to see Toru, because Toru gets to manipulate his checks and essentially delete his +3. But aside from that, I just don't think that there's a character Tokoyami is worried about facing, and that even if he is worried about facing them, there's just a solid chance that he just draws hot enough to aggro them out through anything that they can do. That's kind of like the common theme you'll see amongst these really good aggro decks, is that even if they're in a bad matchup, or even if the stakes and odds are against them in the certain scenarios, their ceiling is always so high that there's a chance that they can just break their way through it. It doesn't matter what character I'm playing, what defensive game plan I'm trying to enact, against most of these characters, and especially not Tokoyami, I will never feel super safe and comfortable against what they're doing. Tokoyami dishes out nearly game-breaking levels of damage at any stage of the game, but especially the very early stages of the game, and it's just so common for this guy to blow you out before you even get a chance to do anything. The defensive decks do not get to set up and do their thing. The aggro decks do not get the chance to backswing you. Anyone and everyone out there can fall prey to the bird. And as much he's a character that you can be prepared for and ready for anything he's doing, there's going to be a lot of scenarios where he's going to break through it no matter what, because that is just how Tokoyami runs. If a Tokoyami out there wins dice rolls and just draws orange all day, he is absolutely poised to take down this entire event. We've seen it happen before, and I think we very well might see it happen again at this Pro Hero Nationals. And that's what puts Tokoyami at the absolute apex of what aggro decks I think you should be taking to this event. And that, my dear viewers, is going to mark the conclusion of this episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Aggro. and the good, the bad, the aggro as a series overall. We're finally at the end of it. This was a very, very fun journey to do. I really like doing little mini series like this. I like spreading the hype and the intrigue across multiple videos. It was very fun getting you guys to sound off in the comments on what y'all thought was coming, and also hear the thoughts on those whose opinions differed from mine. And I want to hear both of those things down there below too. If you totally predicted what the 5 decks on here were going to be, give yourself a firm handshake and a pat on the back down there. If you think there are decks that should otherwise be on there, I would also love to hear your opinions there too. I love reading the comments and getting insight and feedback. Definitely some of my favorite things about doing this whole YouTube thing. And if you really liked what you saw in this video overall and you want to help me keep doing this YouTube thing, drop a like down below, and if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button too. I'm putting out 6 videos a week on this channel, near daily uploads, ranging from things like gameplay, deck profiles, and of course meta discussions like these, and everything else under the sun MHA CCG that I can come up with. And I'd love to be pumping all of that into your newsfeed nonstop. That's all the time I've got for today though. Thanks so much for making it to the end of this video. I super deeply appreciate it, and I cannot wait to see you guys in the next one, and of course at Nationals this weekend. It's been a little minute since I did an in-person event, so I'm really hyped up and excited to see you guys again. But until then, I hope to see y'all in the next video. This has been Sheriff Levi, signing off.